Well, welcome everybody to the Magic Beans podcast. We are back again for episode number 127. I'm your host tonight, and my name is Shorty, and I have just one bean on the line with me. So tonight we have just Cracker. How's it going, mate?
Good, thanks, buddy. How are you?
Good. Well, sort of.
You sure?
I might have been having a coughing fit as we're trying to start recording, but also apologies for just referring to you as just Cracker.
No, it's fine.
I've obviously missed last week's podcast. I don't know, the last couple of weeks have just been a blur. I had everything that counts as COVID except for actually testing positive for COVID. And after hearing, you've obviously been through COVID and it sounded pretty mild.
Yep.
And I had a solid week of absolutely feeling like death. So
congratulations.
It was not COVID, but it felt way worse. So still got the lingering effects of that. I got a cough that just won't go away. So hopefully I managed to edit them all out tonight. And I still have a nose full of snot and my voice is still a bit weird. So this will be an interesting podcast.
We'll be fine.
Yeah. At least it won't be as bad as the robot voice episodes.
Well, that's yet to be seen, Shorty. We don't know what the recording's going to turn out like, so,
don't speak too soon. All right, so just the two of us tonight. I don't know, this may be a short podcast, we don't know. Sometimes we say it's going to be a short one and then it ends up going for a while, but just a couple of things to talk about tonight. Keep everyone up to date with what's going on. But before we get into that, do you want to tell us about our awesome sponsors?
I would love to. It is Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, and they are a Facebook auction page where you can buy physical magic cards. They have a couple of different ways of doing that now. So they have nightly auctions and usually many, many lots up at once, typically 4, and you can just go in there and bid. You say the number you want to spend on a card, and then if you win, that's fantastic. They also have the buy it now auctions where a card is listed at a price and you can just say mine or yes or anything. You basically just put
sold,
whatever you want. Sold. You can even put the actual word that Pat says on there, but that's it. There's no betting. There's no getting rolled by someone for that extra dollar when you're putting your kids down. So the problem with those is they do go very fast, but they are very, very competitive. They're usually at what's referred to as CK 1-to-1. So you're paying like the price for some of the big stores in America at their dollar rate, but for the Australian dollar, which is exceptional because our dollar's garbage. So go and check them out. You can go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au, and when you do win some of those sweet auctions, let them know that the bean sent you.
Very good. So, I despite my lingering illness, I managed to get onto the stream this week, which was good fun. I know you jumped into chat for a little bit. And
I did. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, managed to tee up one of my league matches. Yeah. And yes, made it all the way to gold, tier 4. Played one of my league matches against P-Jaw and,
How'd that go?
Well, I won and he did not have much fun. So, that was all right. It was jamming some... I've been playing like green-black, just mid-range, which... Anyone who listens to this podcast knows I do not like mid-range. It is my probably least favourite archetype. Like I've been known to play some funky combo decks and I've played some control in my time and don't mind that, but just stock boring mid-range, just not a fan. And somehow I've managed to get trapped into the arena ecosystem where that's basically all I can build at the moment, just with the cards that I've managed to get.
You're committed 2 sets ago to Delver, like me, and just know that it's going to be bad and write it out for the next infinite forevers. There are some good cards at the moment, though. But tell us about this green-black pile you've been playing.
Yeah, so I've been playing just green-black mid-range, just like Storm the Festival and all the green and black planeswalkers. I sort of splashed in a bit of blue for Tameo. I did have a Kaito in the list for a little bit, but yeah, it's just very mid-range. And sometimes it works quite well. I'm playing quite a lot of main deck removal, so if that lines up well, then I'm great. Some Blood on the Snow, some Meathook Massacres, and just some point removal, that sort of thing. So if you're going up against creature decks, it does quite well. But then there's other times where you just miss, your 4th land and you just sit there with a handful of 5-mana cards and do like literally nothing. So yeah, played that on stream for a little bit. didn't have much fun. I don't know if the people watching the stream could tell how bored I was getting. But we completed some quests, and then we jumped into some Mono Red in Explorer, and oh boy, did my excitement levels go up from there. If you have not seen the clip that I ended the stream with that got me into gold, I suggest you go and jump into our Discord and find that, or just go onto Twitch and find the save clip that Tyres did for us. It's an entire match that fits into a Twitch clip. That's how quick it went.
49 seconds or something like that. It was pretty spectacular, though. You were very happy playing Mono Red.
I was. Yes,
It's good to see you in your element. And you pilot it very well.
Oh, I try. And yeah, was jamming a little bit of that before, while I was waiting for you to sort your kids out and get on the podcast. So yeah, it was good fun. But we're not here to talk about Explorer. We've been saying it for weeks and weeks that we're going to do a focus on Explorer. I guess we'll probably wait. I don't know what we're waiting for. Something. Maybe our next one day event will be historic and it will be Explorer, and that'll be what we focus on. But we have had a couple of standard events go on the weekend. So I think that's sort of the majority of what we'll be talking about tonight. So I think you and Chewy mentioned on the podcast last week that there was an ESL, the next leg in the ESL event on this weekend.
Last weekend? Yeah, it was the
weekend just gone.
Yeah, exactly right. So we're encouraging people to jump into that. We know that we had a few people, Lyndon playing in it last time, did really well, and kind of ran it back. Top 8 it again.
Yeah, smashed it.
So, they were playing runes. It's obviously... Look, it didn't gain anything from this set, but it's like it has those nut draws where it's just... If you don't stop a turn 2 Jukai Naturalist into turn 3 Runeforge Champion, it's like, GG. You just lose basically on the spot. Like, it's just gross, the value that deck can generate. It's very impressive. So, well done. Congratulations.
Yeah, made it all the way, made it to top 8 again. But so I think in the last one they made it to top 8 and lost in the quarterfinals or semi-finals, I think. Mm-hmm. So sort of made top 4. This time made it all the way to the finals and then unfortunately lost again. But second place is enough to qualify for the end of season championship. So congrats to Lyndon. We've seen Lyndon was Lyndon in our invitational last year? I think they were. And it's definitely made a few league finals, things like that. So, doing well in the Beans community, and good job on representing the Beans. But yeah, running back the runes, I think Lyndon's been playing the runes for quite a while, and as you said, the deck can just be nuts. I know Stu's been playing runes for quite a while. Mm-hmm. I probably would be playing runes, except I can't afford the 40 rare wild cards that I need to build that deck.
Too many, Planeswalkers, black Planeswalkers. I'm trying to think what they're called.
I've got all the wrong colours of everything. I don't have red white or green white or green red stuff. So
you've just got the wrong green cards as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
but yeah, the deck is just solid and it has those absolute nut draws. But lost in the finals to a red white list, which I haven't seen any of this getting around. Have you heard of anyone playing this?
No, I haven't seen any Boros aggro at all. So
yeah, okay. So it's pretty low to the ground. He's playing like Kumano faces Kakazan, and it's got the Thundering Raiju, which I think was a card we spoke about in preview season that gives creatures plus X plus O or something like that based on the number of modified creatures you have. Got Brutal Cathar for a bit of removal, Luminarch Aspirant, which is just always good in your aggro decks, Bloodthirsty Adversary, which is the red one. So yeah, just a bunch of red-white aggressive stuff that, seems pretty good. So it's it's a list I probably would be keen to play, but I don't own all those rare white cards that you need to fill out that list. So yeah, I think it performed quite well for them over the weekend. So that was Bent who took that one down. So yeah, congrats to them. And maybe we'll see a bit more of that list floating around because looks like a little bit of fun.
It does. Speaking of fun, we were having a look at the top 8 lists there, and there was one here that we were just going through by a player called Top Rift, and it had a bunch of cards in it that we had to look up.
But what are you you're not meant to say that, Cracker. We're like experts on everything Magic the Gathering. We know all the cards and no.
The thing that grabbed my attention was I was, scanning through the lists and I was like, Toxrill. Like that's that's a commander card. It's a 7-mana slug that puts -1/-1 counter things. I was like, how are you ever getting to that? But it's kind of a reanimated deck, which is pretty interesting. So
it's
lots
Jund
of
colours.
Yeah, well, sort of. But then there's like a Coma just hanging out as well. So I don't imagine you ever get to cast the Coma for its mana. But I mean, look, with Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you can generate the treasures, you can make the blue mana. So, it's I guess that's kind of what you're leaning on. Is Fable is an excellent card. I think we didn't really pick up on that one in the preview season, but that thing is just everywhere. And it's only seemed to be getting better at the moment. But yeah, it looks like the discard outlet here, and then there's the Graveyard Shift, I think it was, which was like the 5-mana sorcery that can become an instant if you've got enough creatures in your graveyard, and you just put something on the battlefield. So interesting take on what's going on here.
Yeah, Diagraph Rebirth was the other one, which is another 5-mana reanimation spell, but it costs 1 less for each creature that died this turn, and then it has flashback for 7. So don't know how much or how often you're getting that discount on the spell, but it probably doesn't really matter. I mean, in standard, 5-mana reanimation spell is not too bad, especially if you're reanimating something that's really good. They don't
go any cheaper than that anymore. They've learned their lesson from Animate Dead and Reanimate and Exhume and all those fun cards that only cost 1 and 2 mana. Yeah. But 5-mana reanimation is kind of as cheap as it gets. But I mean, if you're bringing something back that is, like a Coma, right, which is multiple bodies in the one thing, it can be really hard to deal with. And particularly if you can do that in Flash, like that's kind of disgusting. So yeah, I would be interested to see how this plays out. I mean, it made it to the top 8, so it obviously had, a pretty good run into there. I don't know how they did after that, but
yeah, I'm like
kind of spicy.
Looking at the list, there's not a ton of removal. Like
there's an Infernal Grasp.
Yeah, there's one Infernal Grasp. I think there's Unleash the Inferno, which I think is a board wipe. I think that's the Jund board wipe.
Yeah, the Riveteer's Charm you can use as the Big Edict as well.
Yeah. But that's it's like there's no Meathook Massacres or anything like that to keep the board clear. So I sort of look at a deck like that and go, yeah, if it can get to 5 or 6 mana, it's going to be doing some powerful stuff. But you look at like the deck that won, the Boros aggro deck, and it's just going to be beating your face in before you get to that point. And same with runes and the mono white lists that are here as well. So yeah, like a reasonably diverse top 8. We've got a couple of Esper decks, couple of mono whites, the runes, and then there's also a Teema list it's a bit of a dragons list. Like it's got what's it called? Why can't I remember the name? Goldspan Dragon.
Prismari.
Yeah, Goldspan Dragon, Galazeth, and then it's also running the Titan of Industry, which is a solid card. And then also running Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And then, just a bunch of, expressive iterations, some negates and fading hopes and those sorts of different things. So, interesting list. That'd be a pretty cool one to play. Something that I haven't seen much of.
Yeah, it looks like Titan is the only green card in the main deck.
Yeah, okay.
And then in the sideboard, there's a couple of Chariots and then a couple of Comas. And that's it. So it really is like an Izzet deck. But man, they've gone hard because it's 4 Titan of Industry, which has got triple green in its cost. So you're really leaning on those treasures because there's some amount of, green. Just looking at the lands, you've got, like both sets of the pathways, the Teema ones. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the Titan is, if you can resolve it and get on the field and then potentially look at copying it with the Fable, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, for sure. And it also laughs at other Goldspan Dragons.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking from experience here.
But yeah, I mean, one thing that we often find when we get into these standard formats with like tri-coloured sets is if there's a lot of fixing there, then they don't end up just being 3-colour decks, because once you're at 3 colours, it's often not that hard to branch into a 4th and sometimes even a 5th colour. And we have seen some of I don't know if you've seen it, I played against it a couple of times, the 5-colour enchantment. I can't remember what it's called.
Kami.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes.
Yep,
I have seen that one. Yeah, that's
I
pretty
got crushed
interesting.
by that on stream. That was good fun. But
Nice.
yeah, and especially with the way treasures are just so prolific at the moment in standard, it really isn't that hard. I mean, we saw it years and years ago with we've spoken about before, Abzan blue and whatever, people just splashing random color. And that wasn't even with things like treasures. It was just, we
had fetch shop mana bases.
Yeah, but it just wasn't that hard to go, well, I'm already solidly in 3 colors and I can already fetch up these lands, so I can just put 1 or 2 of these extra lands in my deck and then fetch them up when I need them. And I'm all good. And so treasures just, we've seen this for a couple of years now, that treasures just really make it quite easy to be splashing almost any color. Even the deck that I've been playing, that Sultai list, I'm playing 1 island and 1 dual land, blue-green dual land, I think, and that's it. And I've just got, Prosperous Innkeepers and the Courier's Briefcase and things like that. So it's almost never an issue to get the extra colours that you need. So
it turns out when you get a card called a Lotus Petal and then you just make a bunch of other cards that just spew them out for free, that's really powerful.
Yes.
So, look, I mean, there's a whole conversation about treasures there, but I mean, it does, fix mana really well. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that continues to play out when rotation comes, because we're going to lose a lot of that. Yeah,
we certainly are. Yep. That was the ESL. I think so. They only ended up with 41 players for this tournament, which is still a solid turnout, but I think they had 66 for the first one and then 41 for this one. So, it's still enough that it's a good showing for local Australian events. But yeah, don't forget that there's still a few more coming up. So there's one on June the 4th. That's next weekend. And then there's another one 2 weeks after that, and then there's the champs. So yeah, if you're free on the Saturday, get in and play it. They did take on board some feedback. I know there's a bunch of chatter in our Discord this week that people had been asking questions and not getting answers, and providing feedback to them and not getting any sort of response or whatever. They did come out this week and answer a bunch of those questions. There was they have the top 2 from each of the qualifiers go straight through to the finals, but prizes, so there's a top 8 stream for the championship, but prizes actually get paid out to the top 32, but there was no information on how the top 32 was actually calculated, how are you earning points throughout the season and those sorts of things. They've gone through and clarified a bunch of that stuff. And then also they had the event starting at 3 p.m. on the Saturday, and most of the time they were running, 6 or 7 rounds. So they're going till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and it's just too late. So they have brought that start time forward, which is good to see that they're listening to feedback and then acting on it. So next one on June the 4th, and I think the start time for that will be 1:30 Melbourne time. So that should still work out quite well for people.
Nice.
All right, so continuing on that sort of vein of tournaments that were played, we had the new Capenna Set Championship on this weekend. And I believe this is the last of the set championships, or this style, before we sort of kick into the new OP system, with, paper play, and there will still be, there's I think 3 major arena tournaments per year. So they're not, I don't think they're calling them set championships anymore. They're called something else, but this is the last of that era of tournament structure that we've had. So, some pretty big implications for this tournament. I know there was a lot of people in the running for the last Worlds slots, because there is Worlds to be played again this year. So that caused I think there was a bunch of really good storylines that sort of went through the weekend. There was one guy, I don't know if you heard this on any of the podcasts this week, Cracker, but there was one of the Japanese players who made it to top 8. I'm going to completely butcher this name. It's Hisamichi Yoshigo. Yep, I apologise.
Sure, let's go with that.
Yep. So apparently they qualified for the set championship accidentally. They just joined an event that was on Arena, didn't realise that it was a qualifier for a set championship, and just happened to win it, and then went, oh, okay, I've did well in this. Oh, and I've qualified for this thing. Okay, cool. I've played that. And then just made top 8, and then they made it all the way sort of through in the top 8 to the point where they got the world's qualification. So,
no. Yeah. That's amazing. I did not hear that. That's fantastic.
But they were playing a Naya mid-range list, not Naya like runes, just like value, like Skyclave Apparition, Luminarch Aspirant, Workshop War Chief, which is the new what's it called? Thrag Tusk. Like it's like 5 mana, 5/3 trample. When it's the battlefield, you gain 3 life. When it dies, you make a 4/4 Rhino. Yeah, like Gala Greeters, just Wandering Emperor, Seeker's Chariot, that sort of thing. Wedding Announcement, Fable of Mirror Bracket, like just literally just Naya value stuff. And that's what they've been playing. Like they played that through the event that they randomly won and just continued playing that and did really well and got all the way to Worlds. So
that's amazing.
Congrats to them. Yeah, pretty crazy storyline. But I know throughout the weekend there was a lot of people trying to calculate, if I get this win and I'm locked for Worlds and all this sort of stuff. I think Simon Nielsen qualified for Worlds sort of partway through the tournament and different things like that. Awesome. So So it was pretty good. So did you get to watch any of this event at all through the weekend?
Sadly, no. The times are never great for when they're on and when I have to do things with sleeping or with my family. So,
yes, it's like the time. There's all this period where I'm asleep, so obviously I can't watch it then. Then there's all this period where I'm awake, or I have other things that I need to do.
Yeah, where unfortunately the real world gets in the way, and
yes.
I still look, in fairness, I haven't been as interested in watching these ones. Like, if it was a paper PT, I would probably have made more effort to like have it on my phone in the background or something like that. But this just, I'm not saying that they're not hard. Like, they're obviously excellent players and like it's top competition, but something about it just doesn't grab me anymore.
No, it's not the same. And I think it's when you're watching paper play and you can physically like see the two people sitting opposite each other playing, and you can see the instant, reactions and looks on their faces and the way they pause to think about the plays they're going to make and do they look nervous and all that sort of stuff. You can see all that. It just adds this whole element to it that you just do not get with.
Well, they did that at the Mythic Invitational, which was actually like the best version of this I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, 100%.
And also like the first version. But I mean, fair play to Wizards, we weren't in a pandemic when that happened. So,
yes.
we can't do that now. And it's an entirely different thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's just not as engaging. And yes, though, they don't always, but sometimes they'll show the players' cameras and you get to see them. But even sort of scrolling through Twitter and, you see people's tournament reports and just sort of their general feedback. And it's like, I just, I sat down and played a game and then I had, like an hour between my game that I played and the next one. So I went and did stuff with my family and then, I just came back home and did it. And it's like, even for the players, the feeling of the tournament is not the same.
Of course not, because you're not in the room.
I'm in this tense situation. I mean, we've spoken about before. You go to a GP, you spend the whole day playing Magic. It's like you're literally just sitting down playing cards. I was explaining this to one of my guys at work this week. You're literally just sitting down playing cards for the day, and by the end of the day, you are knackered. Like, my back's stiff, everything's all jammed up, my shoulders are all tense, and like I need to go and have a deep tissue massage just to like get all the tension out. But like, it's just from that stress and your brain is fried because you've just been like operating on this high level all day, just constantly, crunching numbers and thinking through lines and thinking through plays and things like that. But you're literally just sitting there playing a kid's card game. That's a feeling that you just don't get when you're playing sitting at home in your pajamas and got your moccasins on with your cup of tea and your kids are bringing you snacks and things like that. Like, it's not the same. So, I mean, we will be getting, obviously, as I said before, we will be getting these tournaments going forward. There will be these championships. I don't know what Wizards' intention is in terms of coverage. I did hear some of the commentary teams saying, this is the last time we're doing like online commentary. So I don't know if that means that. Person? Well, yeah, I don't know, or maybe they're just not going to cover the arena events. I would think that they would, but I don't know. We don't even know what's happening with coverage. So anyway, we'll see what happens. All right. So this tournament, we've spoken about these before. This was a split format, historic and standard. Do you think they should have gone with Explorer and standard, or is it just too early in Explorer to be able to do that? Yeah.
I
would have been nice to see, but
yeah, as much as you and I are enjoying the format, I think it's really fun. It's not quite there. It's still very, the card pool is small for having it as the larger of the formats. You know, like you've obviously got more cards than standard, but way less than historic. So I understand why they didn't do that, even though I think it would have been sweet. Would have been cool to see what people could come up with under, you know, like a shorter time period, kind of getting back to like OG PT vibes. But I also understand why they did historic. I'm just glad it wasn't alchemy.
Yes. Yeah, if this event was alchemy and historic, I don't think anyone would have tuned in to watch it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, yeah, Explorer, you know, they literally just had a ban like last week or whatever with Winota and what was the other one? Tybalt's Trickery.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, would have been quite a short time frame, and obviously, you know, they need to advertise, so they would have locked into historic quite a while ago. But I think we'll be seeing some Explorer things coming up in the near future. So, but yeah, I guess maybe we can sort of run through historic first, and then jump into standard. So it was split format. They played, I think, like 15 rounds in total, with like 4 of one and 4 of another on day one, and something like that, similar on day two. And then the top 8 was standard. Good old Wizards, you know, I'm going through doing these show notes and trying to find, you know, we've got the top 8 deck lists, we've got who the top 8 players are, that sort of thing. Do you think anywhere it says on any of those pages what they played in historic? No. I had to go and find, like, hunting through the articles, find the historic deck lists, just to, like, go, oh, okay, what's that guy's name? All right, go to the historic deck lists from this letter to this letter. Find that one. Okay, search up this guy's name. All right, that's what he played in historic. Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Wizards. Good job. But yeah, give us a bit of a rundown on what we saw in historic, and then we'll jump back into standard.
Well, mate, the most represented deck is it Phoenix? Turns out,
surprise.
Yeah, that deck got a couple of really good upgrades recently in Ledger Shredder, and also Strangle is actually a really good card. And if you haven't played with or against Ledger Shredder yet, it's better than it seems.
I have crafted my 4 Ledger Shredders already.
I have 2, and I have now got 2 more rare wild cards, which will shortly be going into Ledger Shredders. It just kind of goes off really quickly. Yeah. You play it on turn 3 most of the time, so you can cast another 1-mana spell, you know, Opt or Consider or something like that, and all of a sudden it's a 2/4 and you've drawn a card, and like it just sculpts your hand beautifully, and it just becomes really difficult to deal with. It grows really quickly while, you know, filtering and all that sort of stuff. So I thought there is an interesting part here. The 6 most played non-land cards across all historic decks, like main decks and sideboards, were Expressive Iteration, Unholy Heat, Dragon Rage Channeler, Consider, Opt, and Arc like Phoenix. That sounds like they just took out deck lists.
When 30% of the field is Phoenix,
of course.
That's not surprising.
No. I mean, it's a lot. But you know, there's Jeskai lists and other things as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely, you know, those are some very powerful cards that go back a very long way. You know, Ledger Shredder is seeing play all the way through to Legacy. Iteration is Unholy Heat sees play in Modern and Legacy. You know, DRC, same kind of thing. So very, very powerful stuff. Yeah,
Ledger Shredder, I think, like, just the sizing of it is what makes it super powerful. Like, if it was like a 2/2.
Well, Sprite Dragon is the one that sort of you can compare it to, I think.
Yeah, and that's what it's replaced in those lists. But yeah, Sprite Dragon's what, a 2-mana 1/1 that often grows to a 2/2, like the turn
so
you play it or whatever. But
in a sorcery, it's a +1/+1.
The fact that Ledger Shredder comes in as a 1/3, so most removal, you know, you just said that Strangle is one of the cards that's getting highly played now. Strangled is 3 damage. So
it's also a sorcery.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, I don't know why it's not an instant, but anyway. But yeah, if you can play your Ledger Shredder and trigger it straight away, it goes straight to a 2/4. So it is quite hard to kill, and it's a solid offensive creature. Like, even if you don't grow it for the rest of the game, a 2/4 flyer is still really good.
It's just a wall a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And just gaining value. So, I've been playing it and, people double spell on their turn. You're like, oh, thank you. That removal spell doesn't work anymore. I will draw that card. And
it's the old Tarmogoyf check. No, you cannot lightning bolt my Tarmogoyf. It does not die. Yeah, but specifically for the Phoenix list, it's doing everything you want. Like, it's that secondary threat that you want for Phoenix, because you always need. You can't rely just on your Phoenixes. Mm-hmm. It doesn't care about the graveyard, and I guess we'll talk in a second about Unlicensed Hearse, which is another card that's popped right up. So it doesn't care about your graveyard. So that's the secondary threat that you don't care about the graveyard. It's growing over time. It's already a flyer, all that sort of stuff. But it's also filtering your hand. Like, you're looting. You're literally drawing and discarding. Like, it's like, yes, I will play my Ledger Shredder, and then I will cast a 1-mana spell, which draws me a card. And, oh, look, I drew a bin chicken, so I'm going to discard that. You can go like consider and, oh, it's a bin chicken on the top of my library. Well, I'll put that straight into my graveyard, and I'll also put another one in my graveyard from my Ledger Shredder. And yeah, it's just doing everything you want for the Phoenix deck. So yeah, not surprised that that's slotted into there.
Unlicensed Hearse is another card that you mentioned, which is from the current Streets of New Capenna set. I might read it because it's not something that people might be massively familiar with. So it's 2 generic mana for an artifact. It's a vehicle. And its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards exiled under it. So it says tap and then exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard with a crew of 2. The crew cost is kind of whatever. I guess late game you can, suit it up and attack with it. But the fact that you just get to tap it every turn, there's no mana cost attached to it. You just get to exile 2 cards from an opponent's graveyard every turn. That's pretty fantastic. It's a really good way to, control that at instant speed for no additional mana investment. So the thing with, as Shorty knows, with the Is It Phoenix decks is you can beat one-shot graveyard removals, like a Relic of Progenitus or something like that. You'll lose a bunch of stuff, but at some point they have to pop it. They just have to, blow it up to get rid of your graveyard, and you're like, okay, cool. And you just refuel, and then they're, trying to find another answer to the graveyard. Whereas this is just on a stick. You just do it every turn. And the fact that it's target, amazing. You get to target it. It's not like some other ones where, like with Relic, if you tap it, then, your opponent gets to choose which card gets removed. So, yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, two cards a turn is a lot.
It is a lot.
It's 2 mana, and then you can use it straight away. So straight up, you are getting two cards on the turn that you play it. And because it's not a creature all the time, it's just an artifact. 99% of the time, it is harder to remove. You do need to be bringing in that artifact removal to deal with the Unlicensed Hearse, which often, like when you're playing against something like Relic, you just go, well, they will exile some of my graveyard, but I'll be fine after that. So you just don't bother with the artifact removal. But this thing's just going to stick around. And then, it does eventually become a win condition. If you exile 6 cards with it, then eventually you're going to find something to crew it, and it just becomes a 6/6. So, it is quite solid. And sort of looking at the meta game, you said we've got just over 30% Is It Phoenix. The next deck on the list is 17.9% of Golgari Food. So another deck that definitely uses the graveyard. It is harder timing-wise to exile cats from graveyards.
But it's still possible.
You got to find the right times, and it depends, who goes first. Sometimes if they activate, they sack a food to bring the cat back, and then you respond, and then if they've got another food, then they can still bring it back before you exile it, and different things like that. So you get in these situations where it's, who's going to jump first, and who can sort of time it to actually get it out of the graveyard. You've also got on on this metagame list, there's Rakdos Arcanist, which it's only 6% of the metagame, but that's another deck that uses the graveyard. So, yeah, can see why that's become a solid card that's going to be widely played. And I think that it's also getting played in like Modern and things like that as well. Just is a solid graveyard hate piece.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is fine, I guess. No, it's good. It's good to have counterplay to that sort of thing without having to resort to like, super hard stuff like Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void. We don't have to see that kind of thing anymore, which is good.
Yep. So what else did we see as sort of the big percentages of the field?
Azorius. So there's both Auras and Affinity, which is pretty spicy. Yep. The Auras deck is pretty much been a staple. It's floated in and out of the metagame from Historic for as long as it's been around. The curiosity effect where you just suit up an evasive creature and draw a bunch of cards and then kind of tempo people out. There's Staggering Insight is the one of the ones, and it seems really solid. It's just kind of picks up bits and pieces here, and its mana just gets better, and it's just good.
Yep.
And Affinity. Do you know anything about this one?
It's been around for a little while because you do have like Thought Monitor and Nettle Cyst and a bunch of those sorts of affinity type cards. So it has been around for a little while. I don't know that it picked up anything new really, but is still a pretty solid deck. You've got some artifact based removal now in like Portable Hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're playing Khans and different things like that. So it can be quite strong.
Yeah, and Esper Sentinel is
that's right.
Excellent card. That will draw you
all those Modern Horizons cards. Surprise, surprise, are super strong.
Who knew they were good? Everybody.
So that's Historic. I don't know how you feel about Historic, but I'm just not interested in Historic anymore.
Not at all.
Yeah, to me, it just seems like a format that is going to die, and it'll get played when they force people to play it for events. But once the paper tournaments come back, people aren't going to be focused on playing formats like Historic, and then they will literally only play it when Wizards goes, "Yep, we've got a championship coming up, and it's Historic." So, I just see Explorer just sort of taking over from it.
Yeah, they've already written that herein lies the death of Historic with Explorer, right? Like, once Pioneer's in Arena, I can't imagine kind of anyone playing it ever. So, anyway.
Well, we'll see what happens. All right, so, the other half of the tournament was Standard as well as the top 8. So, give us a bit of a rundown on the Standard metagame.
So, we saw a bunch of Jeskai lists. It's almost like, is a really good color combination. There's, hang on, let me just get to the right part. There's a lot of scrolling. So Esper Midrange was the most represented deck, and we spoke about Rafine a bunch of times actually. That turns out can being able to filter your hand and grow your team is an excellent ability, and also gets to play the Wandering Emperor, which is and just one of the best planeswalkers in quite a while. I think you could pretty safely say. Yeah,
very very strong.
And then Naya Runes, Jeskai Storm, Jund Midrange, and then Grixis Vampires.
That was a bit of a spicy out of the box list that no one was expecting.
Apparently 12 people were expecting it.
Like what is this deck doing that actually makes it good?
I don't know. Like, it's Bloodthirsty Adversary, Blood Tithe Harvester, some Corpse Appraiser. Let me quickly read what that does. It's a Grixis thing. It's a 3/3.
Enters the battlefield, exile up to one target creature card from a graveyard. If a card is put into exile this way, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put one of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So it's just a 3-mana 3/3 that, you're a little bit of graveyard hate and you're just looking at 3 cards and putting one into your hand. So I guess it's just value.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're playing Vampires for Evelyn, right? The Covetous.
Yep.
Is the payoff, because I mean, otherwise it's like the Grixis shell is just good. It's got Meat Hook Massacre, and, we're talking about Fable of the Mirror Breaker before, and kind of all that good stuff. But Evelyn it's a 5-mana 2/5, and it says, flash, whenever Evelyn or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it, or if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, you may spend the mana if that was any colour. So, I don't know, man. It seems kind of slow.
Yeah, yes.
But I
just
can't
a slow, grindy value list.
Yeah. And look, I guess your tenacious underdog isn't even what's going on there? It's just like it's not even a vampire. It's like, I suppose if it's a vampire, you can keep rebuying it, but it's just, when it dies, you draw cards, so that's pretty good. But
yeah.
You get to play like a lot of removal and a couple of Kaitos, and, I guess it's just kind of, it's a Grixis deck, man. It's just a pile of cards, and, it's fine.
Yep. Well, yeah, Mike
doesn't grab me.
Mike Sigrist decided that it was the list for him, and he made it to the top 8. So, part of that might have just been that it's Mike Sigrist, and that's what got into the top 8.
We need to have a serious conversation. They are playing blue and red lands in one expressive iteration.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that.
It just feels weird to me. Anyway.
Yep.
Siggy is good.
Yep. So I don't have I couldn't find the win rates on the lists, and the win matrix that we seem to tends to get produced for these events. So I don't know if no one just bothered doing it this time, but from what I've heard, there was 5 Is It Mill decks, which I think it's Plunksy from our Discord's been playing a bit of that. I think that had quite a good win rate from what I've sort of been hearing. Yeah, where you're copying Tasha's Hideous Laughters with Galvanic Iterations and that sort of thing. So you're exiling a whole bunch of cards, and I guess that's enough to get you there in the end. But other than that, I don't think there was anything that was crazy high in the win rate. So I think going into the event, most people probably would have picked that Esper was going to be the most played deck, which it turned out to be 34% of the metagame. And then, obviously Runes was going to be there. Jeskai Storm, I think, was the one that was a lot higher than people were expecting. Do you know how this deck works?
Every time I think I've worked it out, I realise I probably actually haven't, is kind of what's going on. So there's a couple of different versions. Hang on, I'm just having a look. There's something to do with in the top 8 confidence that you can do, and it's.
If you look in the top 8 list, there's David Inglis who is playing this one. So yeah, you're playing a fairly standard Is It list. You've got Goldspan Dragons, you've got Leers, Expressive Iteration, Fable and Mirror Breaker. You're playing Big Score, which is the new Unexpected Windfall, but it's easier to cast. Yep. Bit of removal in cards like Voltage Surge and that sort of stuff, some Galvanic Iterations, and then a few, counter spells, Fading Hope, that sort of Juari Disruption, etc. And then, you're playing this list playing one Sajiri Shelter, which is the white flip land, then enters tapped, but on the other side it's 2 mana, instant, give a creature protection from the colour of your choice. And then 2 Show of Confidence, which is a weird spell. It's 1 and a white for an instant. When you cast this spell, copy it for each other instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. You may choose new targets for the copy. So it's sort of got a storm for instants and sorceries, and it's put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn. So my understanding of the list is you're just sort of controlling the board, I guess, or just sort of ramping with, unexpected windfalls and big scores and Fable of the Mirror Breaker and that sort of thing, getting a Goldspan on the field, and then casting Show of Confidence, and then kind of just going off. If you've cast another instant that turn and then you cast Show of Confidence, you get two of Show of Confidence. You target both of them at your Goldspan, which gives you 2 treasures. Those treasures are all tapped for 2 mana. And so you can just kind of get into a spot where you're just casting a bunch of spells that target your Goldspan, and you just kind of draw through your deck with more big scores and, copying them with flashing back Galvanic Iterations, that sort of thing. Churn through your deck until you get to a Leer, and then by then you've generated a bunch of mana, so then you cast your Leer, and then you just kind of do it all again, and show of confidence, and it's giving your Goldspan Dragon +1/+1, so it's pumping up your Goldspan Dragon, and you just kind of, casting it a whole bunch of time and effectively storming off and then killing them with Goldspan Dragons. So it's an interesting deck.
Because it's not deterministic.
No, it's not.
By any means. So
I think you can get to a point where it's like, I can just cast so many spells, and then I recast, you cast 8 spells, and then you recast a Show of Confidence. Like, that's 8, it's a ton of +1/+1 counters and so much treasure that you're generating. So you're effectively getting to a point where it's like, I've almost got infinite mana, and I can just cast every card in my deck and then recast them from my graveyard, sort of thing. So it obviously would use up a ton of time on the clock. You gotta be quick on your clicks to manage that and make sure you can actually get through your turn and then attack before you time out. But like, this isn't a new list. This has been around for quite a while. I think the only thing it's picked up really is the big score as the easier to cast Unexpected Windfall. So it's playing 4 of them and two Unexpected Windfall, but everything else is just old stuff that we've already seen, really. So I think this was the sort of surprise deck from the weekend, and obviously made its way into top 8. So good on them.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, I guess sort of looking at the top 8, it was taken down by, I'm pretty sure the last time we said this person's name, it was Chewy, and he said Jan Merkel, which is not right. It's Jan Merkel, from what I understand. What nationality are they? Is that, what's that flag? Is that German?
No.
The black, red, yellow flag? Yep. Yeah, so I think Jan Merkel is someone who's been around for a long time. I think they won a Pro Tour like 16 years ago or something like that. So this was their big return. But they were playing the Jeskai Hinata deck, which I don't think there was many.
It's not
3
listed.
people. Three players playing Jeskai Hinata, and one of them took the tournament down. So we've mentioned this deck before, but is this one that how this one works, Cracker?
Yeah. So basically, you just want to control the board for a bit, and then get a Hinata, the Dawn Crowns down, and then you just cast Magma Opus and win the game. Is how it's worked whenever opponents have played it against me. It's also playing 4 Goldspans and 4 Fable of the Mirror Breakers, and then just removal spells, counter spells, to basically just get to that point where you can Magma Opus, and then you just, deal 4 as you choose, you tap a couple of things, you make a 4/4, you draw some cards, you create, it just kind of does everything for 8 mana. But because you're targeting so many different things, Hinata reduces the cost just massively. So you can cast it for a red and a blue sometimes, or, 4 mana or whatever, instead of the 8 that it normally costs in the top right. But it's also an instant, so you can do some pretty disgusting things with it. Pre-combat, or in someone's end step, they leave up some blockers, and then you just tap them all down, and there's an extra 4/4 they've got to deal with, and you've got 2 extra cards. It's kind of disgusting. Yeah, it's pretty. It's one of those synergies that you look at and go, oh yeah, that's cute. So Hinata says, it's a 4 mana 4/4 flying trample, so that's pretty solid already. But it says spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each target, and the way Magma Opus is worded, it's 8 mana, but it's deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. So there's 4 targets. You can just pick 4. Deal 1 damage to each of those 4 targets, and then it's got tap 2 target permanents. So you can get 6 targets with the spell, which takes that whole 6 mana off the spell, and so it just costs blue-red. And then the rest of the text on the spell is create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token and draw 2 cards. So you're paying 2 mana. The 4 damage you deal may not actually do much. You might just be targeting things just to make the spell cheaper. Tapping 2 permanents at instant speed, like you said, Cracker, can be really good. But you're making a 4/4 and drawing 2 cards on top of the 4/4 flying trample that you've already got, that also has a taxing effect on it. Spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast for each target. So if they want to kill your Hinata, it adds that
to
also
that.
Means counter spells.
Yes,
if you try and
spells
counter their spell, you have to target it, and it costs you a more. I've definitely not lost to that clause. Just, like you're on autopilot playing Arena, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'll leave up 2 mana for negate, and then they cast a Magma Opus and it resolves instantly. You're like, wait, what happened here? You're like,
I can't cast that. Yeah,
I lose.
Yeah, so I think, and same thing. This deck's been around for quite a while. Yeah. I don't think there's Make Disappear, which is a counterspell, and that's basically it that's been added from the new set. So it's been around for a while, and I think it's just one of those lists that if you know how to pilot it, it can be really solid. And I guess it just happened to be the weekend for that list for this weekend. Cool deck. I think when we spoke about it previously, this was a deck that was like, oh, I'd love to play this deck, but I don't want to spend the wild cards. Although I'm probably actually not that far off of being able to
I'm pretty close.
Build this list. I don't think I've got any Hanadas, and I don't think I have any Fables either, but I reckon I've probably got most of the rest of it. So maybe I should look at it, but it's probably no good in the meta now. So, but yeah, pretty diverse top 8 as well, as like same as what we saw in ESL. We've got Jeskai Hanada, Esper midrange, Naya midrange, which is not the runes list, Grixis Vampires, Jeskai Storm, Jund midrange, and then another Esper and another Jund. So what's that, 6 different lists or 5 lists, something like that in the top 8. 5. So yeah, pretty diverse, which is good to see. So yeah, congrats to Jan Merkel and all the people that have made worlds from that. There was, again, I don't know if you've heard through the podcast this week, but there was a bit of controversy, as there always seems to be with these online tournaments. Apparently there was like 20 French players who all got disconnected at the exact same time.
Yeah, I saw that.
And by the time, they couldn't then log back in. Rejoin, so by the time they eventually got back in, their match was done. And again, it's just raised that question of why can't Arena pause games and have a match log? So it's, especially, I understand in like ladder play and just random games and whatever. Yeah, if people get disconnected, that happens because there's no real stakes there. But when you're doing direct challenge, it should be able to pause that match because it just sucks when something like, and Arena crashes all the time. Like it's not, this is a really rare occurrence. It just literally just crashes all the time.
Yeah.
So I think the issue was, basically, Wizards investigated and went, well, there was no issue on our end, and I assume Wizards would go, oh look, there was some server issue on our end, so we'll get you to restart the matches from whatever point they're up to or whatever. But Wizards basically came out and said, nope, there was no issue on our end, it was an issue from your end, so there's nothing we can do about it. And I would assume it was some random French internet issue.
Assigned them as a draw.
Oh, okay.
And so they awarded match points to both players. So both players ended up with 3 match points. But then they're like, look, it shouldn't affect anything later. And then it turns out that it did. Because it messed up a bunch of tiebreakers and things. Because all of a sudden you've got effectively 2 winners from like round 2 points-wise. And it just, it did some messy things with a couple of people's and world's races. Probably not as well. It's just one of those things where...
Yeah, it's hard to know.
It's pretty tricky to work out a clean way to resolve that for everybody. Yeah. So,
Yeah, and it just highlights there should be that very basic function where the game has a log. So even if everything goes wrong and both players have to restart, they can restart it from the game log and just log back into the game that they were in the middle of that's just been paused. Like it shouldn't be that hard. I'm pretty sure it's something that Hearthstone's had for a very long time. So
yeah, I don't think Magic
they really should have
Online has ever had that though. Not that I'm saying that makes it good, but just,
The difference with Magic Online is you don't time out on a turn. It's like, yes, true. You have a chess clock, but you can use up your entire chess clock. Yeah, whereas Arena... It will time you out of your turn and just pass your turn. And then if you time out on too many turns in a row, you just lose. You just straight up lose. You could still have 20 minutes on your clock and you just lose. So, yeah, I think for a lot of the pro-level players, they're going to be very glad to be back in paper where you just don't have that problem anymore. But I just sort of added a question on our show notes there. do we think Standard's in a good place? Like I sort of said before that I'm not really enjoying playing Standard. I'm kind of stuck in a spot. I think I could be enjoying Standard if I went, all right, I'm just going to put in $150, buy a bunch of cards, get a bunch of wild cards, all that sort of stuff. Or if I'd been drafting and I had cards and I had options to build more decks, there's plenty of good decks. You know, if we look on the MTG Goldfish metagame, like there's a ton of decks. Like the metagame shares are pretty wide. Like there's nothing that's got a huge amount, and there's some really cool decks there. But I think for me, I'm just kind of stuck in a spot where I don't have access to decks that I want to play without spending a ton of money, and the decks that I can play, I'm just really not enjoying. But as a whole, do we think Standard is good?
Yeah, I think it's in the best place it's been in a long time. Like I've been playing a little bit and I've been watching a bit as well, and there's just kind of, yeah, everything is represented in one way or another. I mean, apart from like a true combo deck, if you would, but you know, there's aggro decks, there's control decks, there's a bunch of mid-range decks, there's tempo decks. It's kind of just like, it feels like everything's really well represented and nothing is like just disgustingly oppressive. It feels like we've kind of now got all the answers that we needed. You know, that for a while there, the Kaldheim set was clearly like the most powerful set in Standard after, you know, much of the other stuff rotated, and, you know, you like a Seeker's Chariot and Goldspan Dragon and all that kind of stuff. But there's pretty clean answers to everything now. So it feels like you can build your deck in kind of whatever colors you like, with the fact that we've got, you know, better fixing now to let us branch out into, you know, 3-color decks or 4 or 5 if you want to get kind of wild about it. There are some cards that are egregious. You know, like Meat Hook Massacre is a messed up card. The Seeker's Chariot is still a messed up card. Goldspan Dragon, definitely messed up. You know, like there's things in each deck that you can point to and you're like, this is probably better than it should be, but it feels like somehow we've hit equilibrium. So I don't know, I'm kind of digging it.
Yeah. And it's, you know, we've seen like Runes is as a really strong deck, really powerful, but we're seeing that drop off of the metagame, and then, you know, Esper has risen and has sort of become the top deck, and now the Jeskai decks are sort of coming back in. So I guess maybe I'm just salty that I just can't play mono red, and that's my problem.
That is the thing that's not represented. It's been a minute, man. It's been all mono white as the beatdown deck, but I mean, like that's dropped right off, but it's still good. It's still a legitimate choice you have. And like, you can even just go like Stompy if that's your thing. You can play mono green again. And like, it feels like if you've been playing something for a while in Standard, you're not just straight punished. Nothing has come in the last couple of sets and just invalidated everything else prior to that, which is good, which has certainly happened before. So I think that the balance and the power level of sets feels pretty good across the board. And like some of the fear that everyone had was like, it's just going to be Obnixilis all the time. It's just not. Like, it's played, but it's not super represented. It's in, like, I'm just looking at the top sort of, you know, Standard breakdown, and it's like Esper, Naya, Grixis, Jeskai, then Jund. It's like in the top 5 decks, but it's not the top deck. So I think that's a good spot, considering there was a bit of fear about that.
Yep, and even like that Jund mid-range deck is playing 2 Obnixilis, so not even playing it as a 4 of. So I think, it does seem to be in a really good spot, which is lucky because we've got this Standard for
until September
4 more months,
like that, right? Yeah. Oh boy, don't ask me in 3 months how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, if they manage to continue that churn and these lists still cycle around and rotate for the next 4 months, good job, Wizards. Like, well done. That is impressive. But I think, give it another 2 months and you're going to have people just going, yep, I'm completely done with Standard, which will be fine because we'll have Explorer to play and other things, and paper tournaments will be back by then and whatever. So it's probably not too bad. All right, so last thing, just to quickly touch on the way out the door, obviously we're still going through Baldur's Gate previews. We still don't have the full list yet. It comes out, I don't know when the final previews are meant to finish, but a couple of cards, you know, if we just quickly mention a couple of things each, I just wanted to mention the Gates. So they're obviously, they're pushing the Gates as a land type in this set, which makes sense seeing as it's called Baldur's Gate. Yep. And obviously they've made a card called Baldur's Gate.
Week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's cool. But yeah, I think they actually only just got previewed. Might have even been today. There are some gates for each of the colours. So there's the example, Cliff Gate, which is the red one. So it enters tapped. It's a land gate, of course. Enters tapped. As it enters the battlefield, choose a colour other than red. And then it's got tap, add red or 1 mana of the chosen colour. So it's a land that can go into any red commander deck and be fixing for whatever you need. So there's one of them for each of the colours, which is really cool. And then we've also got Heap Gate, which is obviously a land gate. This one enters the battlefield untapped, which is abnormal for the gates. It's got tap, add a colourless, or 1 and tap, add 1 mana of any colour, so filtering. And then it's got 1 tap an untapped gate you control to create a treasure token. So basically costs you 3 mana because you got to pay a mana, you got to tap this land and tap another gate to create a treasure, which are obviously treasure is mana. So just a way to sort of spend your mana at the end of turn and just slowly generate some treasures and fix your mana as well. So yeah, gates will be interesting. I mean, I think I know I played the gates deck in standard. Did you play the gates deck as well in standard?
No, I didn't. I played against it a lot.
Yeah, okay. That was good fun. The hard part with the gates is you're basically playing a full turn behind all the time because almost all of your gates are coming into play tapped. But I know like the guys from MTG Goldfish have been talking about the gates as a cheap alternative to a mana base. You know, if you can't afford fetches and shocks and OG dual lands and all the various, you know, the Battle Bond lands, which I think we're getting reprinted in this set, all those sorts of things, then gates can be a cheap alternative because it's easy to get your fixing from those, and there are cards that search up gates and things like that. So just something interesting to
play these in a 3-color deck. I don't know about a 2-color deck because you've got...
Yeah, probably not for 2 colors.
You know, like if you're playing 2 colors, you would probably just go with the temples. You can usually find a temple of 2 colors, cheap, which gives you the scry, and they cost you nothing, even though they're a rare land cycle. But the fact that you get to choose the secondary color on these, I think is actually really legitimately good. So if you're playing, you know, Jund in that example with Cliffgate and you need green mana, then, you know, you're not stuck with a red-black land that doesn't give you the green you need to cast the spells in your hand. So I think that's really cool. Giving you a little more flexibility is always nice.
Yep. All right, you got a card you want to talk about?
I do. It is called Ancient Silver Dragon because, of course, it is. And surprise, surprise, it's blue. It is 6 blue for an 8/8. It is a creature Elder Dragon, not legendary. So you can have as many of these things as you want, which is 1 in Commander. But it says flying whenever Ancient Silver Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. Draw cards equal to the result. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Oh my goodness, Shorty. I can deal someone 8 damage and then draw 20 cards. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Or not.
Yes, or
there's a whole
you
cycle of these.
Deal 8 damage and draw 1 card, but even that's fine.
Hey, listen. I mean, I'm attacking. I don't know what else you want from me here. Like that's a step up from what I normally do. I don't think this card is sweet. I love, you know, there's lots of different ways you can engage in Commander, and every now and again, I just want to cast big dumb things that do big dumb things. And this
it's pre-selling for $23.
It says draw 20 cards on it, Shorty. I don't know what you don't understand about this.
Yeah.
And you know what you can do? You can equip it with Blade of Selves.
Yep.
And then you can have just 3 of them and attack 3 people. And draw 60 cards.
Do you have to roll 1 d20 or do you have to roll 4 d20 or 3 d20s?
No, it's 3 because it's 3 separate creatures.
Yeah, so you'd have to roll a d20 each time.
Correct. Because they have to deal combat damage.
Yep.
So
nice.
Anyway. Lots of Myriad. We were just chatting about that before. Lots of Myriad on creatures in this set, which is going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I've never played a commander game with that mechanic, so it seems confusing when you actually read through it. I think in practice it's probably pretty straightforward.
It's actually much simpler than it reads.
Yeah,
it's kind of like you put it on very creature, wordy. You attack, and then
you just copy that creature.
You just copy that creature.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I did just see, like, literally next to your Ancient Silver Dragon is a card that I'm not going to be able to not mention. Storm King's Thunder with some really sweet art, actually, and Storm King is a campaign that I played in D&D with my brothers, but it's nice. X red for an instant. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell X times. You may choose new targets for the copies. Just another card for my deck that I'm not allowed to play. You can play this. It's fine. Just, generate a bunch of mana and then, copy my next spell 10 times and kill everybody again. Sounds fun.
Yeah, speaking of those types of commanders, there's I've seen some cards that referenced experience counters in here as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember where they were. Hang on. There's definitely something that referred to like it's experience counters again, which I thought was really interesting. So,
yeah, right, because we haven't seen that since those precons, which is 2015. I think those ones came out, so it's quite a while. Yep. All right, so the set looks pretty cool. Obviously, if you're into Commander, then you're going to be into that.
Over this, yeah.
Speaking of Commander, the Command Fest that's happening in Sydney towards the end of June is sold out. So if you were planning on going to that, I don't know how you're going to go because there really isn't side events. So I know Chris Polywaffle and Infect Rules, they're going up, I think, with a couple of our other mates as well. So they'll be there repping the beans, and Hemsy's going, and I think Plunksy was intending on going as well. So yeah, it'd be cool to see a bunch of beans there. Chris will have his vintage cube on hand just in case we manage to get 8 players together. But I think that event is all about this set. Like it's sort of like the pre-release for this set. So yeah, should be pretty cool. So get in on that, and hopefully it goes well. I'm sure we might be able to get some sort of tournament rundown from Chris and get him back on the podcast when he gets home from the event. Yeah, we were chatting about that today at work, just about what he was going to build and things. He's pretty excited for it, man. There's a bunch of stuff. Filthy cool. Casual Commander player. He's not playing filthy casual. He's playing CEDH. He's building some CEDH nonsense. Yes, Penrith and Pod we were talking about today. Oh, okay. And being Chris, there's obviously power involved, and well, there's no actual power, no expense spared. But the cards you're allowed to play that are expensive in Commander will be played. That is true. I guess Time Twister's technically power. Yeah, cool. All right, our short podcast, as always, has gone over an hour, Cracker. So it turns out we can actually talk about Magic even if we don't know much of what's the tournament going on. So usual wrap up. Quick reminder on the league. We're like nearly 2/3 of the way through the group stage, and we've had like less than a third of the matches played. So get cracking. I think even us Beans have been pretty lazy. I've only played one match. You've only played one match, and I think Chewy or Stu have played any matches yet. So hopefully we'll see a flurry of things this weekend. Yeah. Tag us and yell at us. Yeah. Obviously, there's time differences and all that sort of thing, but get your act together for that. So you need to have all your matches played by Monday the 6th, I think, was the cutoff, 10 p.m. on Monday the 6th. So, you've still got, a week and a half, but don't slack on them, and, make sure you're being in contact with your opponents. And if you're not getting any response in the channel, send them direct messages, and then if you're still getting no response from them, let me or your relevant bean know, and we can either try and get in contact with them ourselves, or we will give you the match win for the lack of communication. If you want to get in on our future events, so we will still have 2 more leagues this year and 2 more one-day events, so there's still plenty of time to get Envy points. The best place to do that is in the Discord, so the link for that is always in the show notes. There is a link for the merch store. If you are going to the Command Fest, grab yourself a hoodie or a t-shirt or something like that, and rep the Magic Beans logo while you're there, so we know who you are and makes you easy to find. There's also a link for Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, or you can just go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au. That'll take you straight to the Facebook auction group. You can join up and get yourself some bargains. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. All those places, just search for Magic Beans or Magic Beans Cast, and you will find us. If you want to find me on Twitter, I am at Peace Inc. And you are, Cracker? At JoelHill_. Very good. So that's it for this week. Thank you as always for listening. Hopefully I've edited out all my coughs. If not, enjoy them. And we will see you all next time.